Over the past few weeks, I've been getting inundated with questions about how to tell whether or not your certificate of authenticity for your return stock is actually authentic from McMillan. So I'll go ahead and talk about that for a few minutes here and see if I can't cover some of the things to look for that will verify whether or not your certificate is authentic and was produced and shipped by McMillan, from what I understand. Now, I've spoke to McMillan on the phone over this several times, and it's easy to say that. It's easy to say I heard or I spoke to someone or someone said. So I went ahead and emailed them recently to verify these claims in writing, and I have them, and I'm willing to share them with anybody that wants to contact me to see them to verify what I'm saying, and it's not something that I'm making up or heard or whatever. So I probably purchased 25, maybe 30 certificate or return stocks over the years, many of them from McMillan, and the ones that came from McMillan had no reason to doubt their authenticity, the certificate's authenticity. Every one of them that I received from McMillan had the same sort of certificate on the same type of paper, and that paper had some distinguishing characters that I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. And if you want to know how to verify whether or not your certificate is legitimate, I believe you can send it to McMillan, and McMillan will tell you whether or not it's legitimate. I've heard that. I have not tried that, but I did try to send them a return stock and ask them to produce a certificate for it, and they assured me that they couldn't because the paper was no longer available and there was no extra certificates made for anybody. So that's in my email correspondence with them. Also, like I said, I had talked to them many years ago trying to get them to produce me some certificates for rifles that I received that were not that the certificate was not provided with. So, all right, so let's get to it. First thing you're gonna look at when you look at your certificate is the type of paper that it's on. Okay, this is the first thing. The McMillan certificates from McMillan came on I'd say a medium thickness paper. Okay, here's their standard sheet of paper. Just a regular 8.5 by 11. This happens to be the email from McMillan, by the way. And this is in between a standard sheet of paper thickness and like a heavy cardstock. So if your certificate is on a heavy cardstock, you may want to question its authenticity. Reason is that McMillan's verified to me in writing that they didn't produce any certificates on different paper. All the certificates that were produced on the same paper. Okay, so that's the first thing you want to look for. Is it on a real thin piece of paper? It's a fake. Is it on a heavy cardstock style paper? It's probably a fake. Okay, so those are the things you want to look for. That's the first thing. Now, the next thing you look for, I'm going to turn on the light here, is you want to look inside the paper for a watermark. Now, let's see. Brighten this up. If you look at this paper, there's a watermark in it. Notice the lines. There's lines in here. Okay, there's lines in it. There's also a watermark in the paper, if you see it here. Okay, now these were 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, and the watermark didn't always fall into the exact same spot on the paper. If you notice, this one over here, this other one, is in this particular corner of the 8.5 by 11, versus this one is in the middle. So that's not something that is going to have to be identical. Turn it over, you also see it. One of the things that I've noticed, if you try to copy these particular pieces of paper, they are a certain color, and the color is indigenous to the paper manufacturer. What's unique about this particular paper is that, like our American dollar, it's got a certain amount of different materials in it, and that material is you could actually have it tested, the piece of paper tested, to see if those materials were in your paper. Well, if you wanted to go through that headache, that would be up to you, but that is another way to tell. The big way to tell is, first of all, is it on the right kind of paper? Is it on a heavy cardstock? If it is, it's not the same paper that McMillan produced them on. If it's on a real thin piece of paper, then it's not on the same piece of paper McMillan produced them on. McMillan produced them on a certain quality of paper that only the McMillan stock certificates came with. Okay, so if you got one that's on a different kind of paper, it's probably somebody is taking it to Kinko's or FedEx office or whatever in their shop on their scanner. I don't know, but they've probably scanned it. When they scan it and print it, it comes out darker. It comes out incredibly dark because that printer is picking up the color of this paper and putting it on the new paper. So even if you get a close match to the paper used by McMillan, it's still not going to match in color because it's going to be that much darker. Okay, so the big things to look for are the watermark lines, the manufacturer's watermark, paper manufacturers. This is not a McMillan watermark. That watermark isn't something indigenous to McMillan. It's indigenous to the paper manufacturer. Okay. Now, like I said earlier in the video, I did contact McMillan in writing, so there was no disputing what I'm saying. It's not me just saying, well, I heard or someone told me. Instead, it's in writing, and I sent them an email, and the email stated that I had an M40A1 return stock, old smear pattern style. It didn't come with a certificate, and I was inclined to believe that they could produce me another one, and if they would, what would it cost to issue me another certificate, that I was willing to pay for their time and efforts and shipping and return shipping and any fee that I would incur. So I got an email response later, and it said, unfortunately, we no longer have any certificates of authenticity, nor do we have the means to make you a new one. Also, I do not believe that the certificates available to purchase on eBay are authentic. There were never any extra certificates produced, sold, or sent out to anybody. So it's highly unlikely that there would be any available on the market. Sorry we could not be of more help, and please let me know if I can help you further. So I appreciated the response that they sent me via email, and I had one more question for them, and I just want to verify that they only used one type of paper for these certificates. So I sent them a reply email. I told them thanks for the response, and I appreciated it. And I had one last question, and that question was, if the stock somehow got separated from the certificate, was there any way to tell whether or not that a replacement certificate would have been legitimate? And if they ever printed any on different kind of paper? And their answer to that was, the certificate, this is verbatim from McMillan, the certificates were all printed on the same paper. I would advise against purchasing one on eBay. I'm sorry I can't be of more help. Okay, so that's in writing from McMillan. So if you have a complaint about the video right now, you can take that to McMillan and verify with them rather than me. I'll take your questions if I can. If I can answer them, I will. You can contact me at thehogsden@aol.com, thehogsden@aol.com, and I'll be happy to answer what I can. If you're just calling to complain to say that you received one and the seller is legitimate and all this kind of stuff, those are questions for McMillan, not for me. I'm not going to answer. I'm not going to get in the middle of that. I'm telling you what McMillan has written to me, and they've told me that all these certificates were printed on the same paper. I've showed you what to look for in the paper. There's some other ways to verify what paper was used and the composition of that paper. So there's some other ways to verify. I can do that. If you want to send me your stock certificate, I'll be willing to tell you whether or not it matches the McMillan papers. Okay. So again, thehogsden@aol.com. Now, if you find one on eBay for sale, I've sold several on eBay over the years, or maybe not several, but a couple on eBay over the years. Those certificates came from guns that were sold without the certificate. Now, over the years, I've probably produced in excess of 25 M40A1s on return stocks. Not all of those guns were sold with the certificate. So, in other words, I kept the certificates for a lot of those guns, and the reason I did is because I had stocks that I didn't receive from McMillan that didn't come with certificates. So, whenever I could get away with selling the gun without the stock certificate, I kept the certificate. So, there was times that was part of the deal, and I reduced the price of the gun in order to move it without the return stock certificate, especially on the smear pattern stocks. The woodland stocks were a little harder to verify, but if you had a smear pattern stock, it was probably a return stock. Not always, but probably. Okay? So if you see one of mine for sale or somebody selling one of my particular products, I guarantee you that it's legit and that I will back that up with a money back guarantee. Again, if you have a problem with what I'm saying here and you want to just complain to me that your certificate is legitimate because you bought it from a reputable person or whatever, that's something for McMillan. So don't bring that to me. I'm not interested. Anyway, so hopefully that helps you out. If you bought some of these return stock certificates, you may want to try to get your money back or work something out with the seller or sellers and find out, how it is they got these certificates that McMillan's put in writing that never existed. Hopefully that helps. TheHogsDen at AOL.com. I'll help you as much as I can. Thank you.